name is Erin Grace, and I'm a mother of three. I have a psychology background, bachelor's degree from Florida Institute of Technology, and basically since I was a sophomore in high school, psychology was my main interest. Lots of people seem to think, back then at least, that I was the person to go to whenever they had relationship problems or just problems communicating with people. And ever since then, I seem to be the person that everybody wants to go talk to when they're having trouble with things. I'm, I guess, very validating, and a big word that's come up a lot is I'm probably one of the most objective people they've ever met. So I think that helps a lot when people don't want to feel like they're taking sides, especially. They want to feel like they're being fair to the other person, so they don't necessarily want someone who's always on their side, but they also don't want someone who's going to be completely taking the other person's side either. So I'd never even heard of life coaching up until about a year ago. Somebody in my family, actually my brother-in-law, had suggested I become one because a lot of the conversations he'd heard me have with my sister were just more of a life coaching style instead of a counselor. Whereas a counselor a lot of times will come in as being the authority on something. I tend to like to look at things as if the person you're speaking with has all the knowledge. They just may need help articulating what they want to know, what they want to say. So that's really what was much more appealing to me than becoming a mental health counselor. I just don't like to have that position of authority over someone. I like to treat people as their equals, and they do have the answers. So that's really what sparked my interest when I heard of that. I'm like, that's so much more of what I want to do than become a counselor. And so immediately that's where I turned to. I actually dropped right out of a master's program and set my sights on being a life coach. Life coaching takes a more team approach, whereas counseling, the counselor is usually the authority. I wish I had gone to life coaching first before counseling. Years ago, I was better off with counseling for a lot of the problems I had growing up, but I found that I dwelled too much in counseling, and I needed someone who was just able to validate what I was doing in the present and help me move forward. I'd go to counseling and I felt like I was being really held back, and because I couldn't articulate very well for myself to the counselor what was going on, they were kind of floundering around trying to figure out what I needed, whereas life coaching just takes what you're saying now and applies it, and they're really an interpreter for what you want, and of course will clarify for the person what they want. But overall, it's about moving forward from the present and not getting stuck too much in the past, and not addressing someone as if they have problems. It's basically just validating everything and not dwelling. So one's more equals and one is more of a hierarchy, whereas somebody's there to learn something from somebody else who's the authority, and life coaching is more of the team approach. I think what separates me from other life coaches, at least in, well, for one, my focus is on relationships, and I guess it goes back to how all my life people have liked talking to me because I'm very validating and I leave them feeling better about things, and I don't assume. That's always come really easy for me. I've tried not to ever assume anything without knowing the facts, and just the being so objective. In life coaching, that seems to be something that they really focus on in the training, and they say it's harder than you think as far as not being presumptuous, whereas for me, that's always been the point that I've already taken. So to me, it came a lot easier, I think, than maybe a lot of other life coaches where they really had to work on that more. I just think it comes to me so naturally as not being someone who assumes things and is judgmental, that maybe I might come across as a little more genuine. Even in the classes, people have said, you can tell you're really listening and you really feel for that person. I come from a background where my grandmother was very, I don't want to say psychic, but that's really what the background was, and there's a lot of empathic feeling between my sister and myself and my grandmother, so I almost think it's like a family thing almost. In the women in our family, at least, it's just comes easy. And I don't know, maybe I can't speak for all the life coaches out there, but maybe they have the same thing too. But as far as I know, it's kind of a little bit of area that they have to work on, is the not assuming things, because it's harder than you think for some people. When you ask questions to people, you tend to ask questions with assumptions in mind already. And people don't even realize how much they do that in questions until you pick it apart and say, well, right there you were assuming that the person was doing this and not that before you even got into the conversation. So it's actually something that I think is a little harder for some people, and to me it comes pretty easy. Basically by taking the approach that I try to take with people, and is try to treat people as equals, and try to appreciate who you are already, instead of, we're also critical, it seems, in life. Even when we don't think we are, we're critical of ourselves, and it comes out in the way we talk to other people. And I think knowing how to give yourself a break, for one, and where to cheer yourself on in areas that maybe seem so basic and silly, but they're not. That's one thing that I learned to do, is really appreciate things about myself that I never used to before, and I always thought were such little things. But people said, no, like the objectivity and the being validating, I just thought were silly things that were pretty useless actually, and people were very appreciative of that. And you need to really focus on appreciating things about yourself and learning to be your own cheerleader, because it's so important for you when you go out and talk to other people, how much you project that out. A lot of people get hung up on being negative, and it really shows in how you talk to other people. And when you can leave people smiling and feeling good about themselves, that's a big plus in just how you go about your life. You're just gonna feel better about yourself in general. So you can find me at lifesites.us, that's my website. I'm at Twitter at LifeSitesCoach. Facebook is facebook.com/lifesites. And my email is info@lifesites.us.
Chances are when said and